A Vorin ship pulled into the shipyard. Their ship was full of ill-gotten gains. They had swept through the last star system and nabbed a few smaller ships when their owners had to disembark. Luckily for them, the shipyard didn't ask many questions and paid well for ships. The Vorin landed and disembarked from their ship. They entered the main office, and the shipyard boss looked up but didn't say anything and just nodded. "We've got a few ships to sell," the Vorin leader, Morax, said. "What you got?" the shipyard boss gruffly asked. "A couple of small civilian planet jumpers, 2 escort defenders, and an AX-417 fighter," Morax said. The shipyard boss looked surprised at this, which is what Morax had expected, but he didn't expect the reply. "Get out of here now. We don't want anything to do with you or your cargo." Morax took a second to recover from this before he replied. "We haven't even discussed a price yet. Let us at least hear an offer." "It's got nothing to do with price. You stole from someone you should never have messed with." "What do you mean?" "Pirates attack shipyards somewhat frequently. I don't think." Morax started but was interrupted. "Then they attack the IE, the information exchange." Morax knew that no one attacked the IE. It was a dumb idea to start a fight with them, and that was before one took into account the arsenal they had. "They were destroyed, right?" Morax asked, hoping the answer was yes. "They made a trade with the IE. They would stop their attack, and the IE would supply them with the information they wanted. The IE accepted that deal." "The IE were the ones who offered the deal. But the IE always comes out ahead. They are now selling the information on the attacker, specifically what they wanted to know about. If someone is crazy enough to attack the IE, then everyone wants to know what that person wanted." "And what did they want?" "That's going to cost you," the shipyard boss said with a grin. After a bit of negotiating, a price was agreed upon and paid. They wanted to know about a stolen AX-417 fighter, one that had been stolen from the star system you just came from. Morax shuddered but pressed forward with another question. "Who was this attacker?" "Don't know. Information costs money, and I didn't need to know. I can get you in contact with the trashed shipyard. They might be able to tell you more about them." "That would be appreciated," Morax said. The shipyard boss held out his hand, and Morax realized it wouldn't be free. A bit more money was exchanged, and the shipyard boss got a transmission going to the trashed shipyard. On the screen stood an alien who looked a bit battered and tired. "Hello, you need something at your shipyard?" Morax spoke before the shipyard boss could. "We heard you were attacked by someone. We were wondering if we could get any information about them." "Oh, yeah. We were attacked by a single human, and they pretty much wrecked the entire place before we could convince them to leave." "Only a single human? What did they look like?" "Scary." Morax waited for them to give more information, but they didn't seem like they were going to speak soon. "Do you have anything else to add?" "They were frightening." Morax sighed, hoping to get some better information than this. "What gender were they?" "Rage." Morax was about to follow up on this, but the wrecked shipyard worker continued. "We really don't want to get any more involved in this, so that is all we are going to say. We would suggest you try to not get involved either." At that, the transmission was cut. Morax stood there and looked at the shipyard boss, who had been listening in the entire time. Before Morax could even say anything, the shipyard boss just pointed towards the door. Morax didn't say anything and simply left. It had been over a week since Morax had visited the shipyard. He had immediately gone and hired a mercenary to protect him. The mercenary was a Somes, a reptilian race that took great pride in their warriors. While they were great warriors, they didn't view fighting with guns and advanced technology as a way to get honor and instead fought with specially made swords. Though that only supported how great of warriors they were, as they could fight that well while at such a disadvantage. The other thing Morax did was park the ship in an inconspicuous spot and hide. Even with these precautions, Morax couldn't help but worry. He had been getting updates 3 times a day, even though nothing was happening, and still regularly paced around. His suspicions were confirmed as the radio sprang to life. "Captain, we found a crew member knocked out in the corridor. They took his key card." Morax shot over to the radio and spoke into it. "Ship Bay, prepare for battle. We believe the human has already infiltrated our ship." A couple of seconds passed before a reply came back, with the sounds of a battle occurring in the background. "A bit late for that. They are already here." Morax slammed on the speaker button and shouted back, "Kill them and bring them here." Everyone waited for a reply, but nothing came. After a few minutes, Morax spoke through the radio again. "Give me an update on the situation." Once again, no one replied. Morax waited a few more minutes before asking again, "What is happening?" A few seconds passed before the radio turned on with a reply. For a second, Morax grew hopeful before dropping back to despair. "I am coming for you next," was all the human voice said through the radio. Morax immediately stood up and frantically gave out orders. "Everyone get ready for battle. And where is the Somes? He should be defending me." "I'm here," the Somes said, standing next to Morax. "Good." Everyone waited, watching the door. Every second felt like an eternity as they waited for the human to arrive. Then they heard a slamming noise on the door. Everyone pointed their guns at the door, waiting for it to open, but it stayed shut. A few more seconds passed, and just as Morax was about to speak, the door exploded open. A small orb was thrown through the smoke, and before anyone could react, it exploded with a flash of blue light. Morax looked down at his gun to see it was disabled. They had been hit with an EMP grenade, and all their weapons were broken now. As Morax realized this, the human stepped through the doorway. Fully covered in light armor from head to toe, with a protective visor over their face, Morax agreed with the shipyard's assessment: the human was scary. The only one to react to the human was the Somes, who immediately rushed towards them. The human reacted as quickly and pulled out an old-fashioned gunpowder pistol without any auto-aim. They fired at the Somes, who managed to deflect the first one with his blade while twisting his body, so the second shot only skinned his arm and was deflected by his scales. By this point, he had closed the distance to the human and swung his sword. Everyone thought this was the end, but the human simply dodged it and prepared for another shot. Even the Somes was surprised at this, but quickly reacted with a follow-up blow before the human could fire. The human only partially managed to dodge this blow and got a large slash on their armor. Though, instead of stepping back, the human stepped forward and hit the Somes with their gun. He was stunned for a moment, but rushed into the human and knocked them onto their back. The human managed to roll away from the Somes' attack, and the fight continued with several back and forths and glancing blows. The fight finally ended with the human managing to fire a shot at the Somes' legs. He jumped back to dodge it, but the desk he landed on couldn't hold him and collapsed. The human quickly reacted and threw a capsule at him from their belt. The Somes had already landed and managed to slash it, but that is what the human wanted. A burst of foam came from the capsule and covered the Somes. The foam quickly hardened as the Somes tried to break free. He stopped struggling once he noticed the human had the gun locked onto him. The human had won the fight. They looked around the room before finding Morax. They pointed the gun at him and pressed a button on the side of their helmet, which opened the visor and revealed a human female's face. She spoke directly to Morax. "Where is my cat?" Morax stood there confused, unsure what a cat was. She had already been to the ship bay and seen her ship. Morax cautiously asked, "What is a cat?" "It is a small animal. Mine is covered in black fur. Makes a meowing noise," she replied, gun still pointed at Morax. Morax still looked confused, but the Soames replied this time, "Mr. Scratchy." The human looked at the Soames. He continued. "Small furry animal that scratches you when you first meet him. Makes a lot of noise if you don't feed it at its dinner time." "That's right. The cat's name is Mittens," she replied. "I didn't know his name, but he is in my quarters," the Soames said. The human took out another capsule and used it to dissolve the foam covering the Soames. "Lead the way," was all she said. Both the Soames and the human left while Morax stood silently, hoping not to catch their attention. As they walked through the ship, everyone gave the human a lot of room. She couldn't help but notice that they gave the Soames a lot of room too. They walked past the crew quarters to the engine room at the back of the ship. Tucked away to the side was a hammock with a pile of blankets under it. The Soames reached into the blankets and pulled out Mittens. The cat lazily meowed at him as he handed Mittens to the human. She took the cat in her arms and whispered to the cat. As she was cradling the cat, the Soames couldn't help but ask a question. "Why do you call him Mittens?" She held up one of the cat's paws. Mittens is all black except his paws, which makes it look like he is wearing mittens. "Ah, I understand," the Soames said. The human looked around the room and then at Soames before speaking. "What is your name?" "I am Gordon." "I'm Zara." "It doesn't look like they care much for you here. How would you like to work with me? I'm a bounty hunter and you had some pretty good moves back there." Gordon looked surprised but thought about it for a bit before asking, "Would I get to play with Mr. Scratchy?" Zara was confused for a second before answering, "Yeah, the cat is my ship's cat." "Then I accept your offer," Gordon said. "Good, let's go," Zara said but paused before leaving. "My cat is female, so it would be Mrs., not Mr." Gordon simply nodded in acknowledgement. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.